when the FBI and the NSA stops um, fighting in their way of fighting, right? What actually brings them together so that they can work? Because if it does make sense, the argument that the ether killed Epstein, because um, for me to claim to have any knowledge into a story that comes out to like a dirty cop with his hooks still in the game was able to get some guards to open the door or turn the other way. And that is exactly the argument that they're making because it's a dirty cop, right? Dirty cop equals, that means it's explained, you can explain how this happened, right? So don't argue and around those. I would just leave that alone, and because it does also make sense that um, it's not have to be like a poltergeist or demons or anything like supernatural if it's the ether charged up by all of this expectation on when they're going to get this guy to crack because he wants to. So if you know he wants to crack, and his death being the inevitable eventuality that we all probably subconsciously already knew before he was going to die, then you could say that our beliefs and could be palpable enough in his cell to be like another person, and you choking somebody out like he used dental floss, so I guess he reinforced his dental floss so it wouldn't snap. But this is all not interesting stuff, and neither is the guards interesting more than like he's an obituary, and why would anybody want to like know anything about him because he's like he's probably just a low low person that nobody, you don't really take those on so much memory from those people, like they're so forgettable that it's almost like they never existed. So, and you could argue like the ether might even put a dividing line on levels of existence to where we could just pass them up, and they might, you know, it might play out. So I mean that's like a far out there. And of course, I'm not saying that it's not possible that a guard just didn't do what they said he did, right? Because dirty cop, right? So like, how many different forms of or derivations on a dirty cop like could be, like a inform, like he's a undercover, or like what, separate from the, he's they keep him separate. Who do they actually keep separate? Like, who do they actually separate from? Because you would think dirty cops would be. But then, so he's a brown shirt. Okay, so dirty cop, brown shirt, Epstein, brown shirt. Makes sense. But then, don't they have levels of, like, oh, you can't just throw all the brown shirts in together, no? Like, mixing in the beans with the water all at the same time, It's like, so basically what I'm getting at is that you can see that on an investigative level, when somebody has no interest in any details coming out, that why would we continue to call them reputable? So when they stopped fighting, right, they're supposed to be brought together. When the NSA and the FBI stops fighting, they're brought together by a common enemy. Well, who's that? If it's not the fucking creature, right? Who's left? Um, and also, we have these focus groups like scamming, like scanning through hours and hours of social media, looking for social media terminology and around those fields where they can uh, maximize your experience, get the best. what's it called, relevant and directed advertisements to you and things like that. But it also has its application in trying to access the collective conscious apprehension. And when you get autocorrect help on some levels, it could be a threat in society. That doesn't necessarily physically put hands on anybody, but so I mean, I'll just have to meditate on that because I don't want to make up about energies like that. I don't want to make up anything that I don't actually know, because knowing too much is a problem. It's like where it's like the same thing, right? That I just explained would happen to my guy. And, so I'll just be, it's just like sometimes because you're part of your environment. Am I saying you? Anybody is a part of their environment. That there are inflections or like resonations that can obscure your psyche or obfuscate it. So it's like you're struggling with something when it's not you. Like it's like it put a spirit in you, something like that. It's possible and arguable that it would just be like a goiter and dry up and then crack and fall off. Then when we get around to considering that we still, some of these people blend back in, and that's why I can't be in front of a TV for very long, because it doesn't take very long for some panic individual to push his agenda for the trying to yeah to hack into like your to it's like they're hacking. It's like, oh shit, like we have this huge problem and you have to worry about this, but they do it in a convincing way. So it's like it comes down certain, and it's like only a certain amount of time if you're in front of a TV. Like you can't not really, like there, okay, there's all the mundane activities, and that not to fall out of favor with the mundane is it's when they implement, because the sun rises every day for every man, woman, and child, and then to codify your senses and give clarity to your surroundings and your environment. It's the first thing that you have to acknowledge. When you talk about energies, because energies, like, okay, and I'm gonna stop myself there too, because I know that there's like some spirituality pimping going on over on in the Hollywood thing. So like that thing. So I want to be careful. Like it's thinking further. It's like it's a meddlesome. It's like there's some ether like in the room with me too. So that you could argue your like. The thing is, how fast does it want me to get beyond past the technology? I'm not against the technology, but I do think I have to pass it up. Because I don't need it. So is it here to an impatient manner? So that's funny. Just don't provoke it, and it'll be around forever and help me to affect, some rise and use leverage to get up over this and back into, because I have to have things autonomized or something like that. Like if you could set certain things up, like a business that's scalable, to autonomize and deperson myself from the money, then I can be on land and practice ancient bushcraft and kiln work and things. I can build at my own kiln with clays and smelt iron from slime, from oxidized iron, like yellow slime down in the river. You make pellets, and then you start like you're building like a mud thatch hut, but then you add some shingles, and then you're always building the fireplace. You're always building up that fireplace. By the time the thing is like you get to a certain level, and then you branch out into other skills and crafts from there. You can build your own campus, and all made out of natural biodegradable materials that you found there. Starting off with how to split a rock and make an axe head and cordage, so you can make shoes. Um, yeah, that would be a good time. And everything else is noise and artificial light and oppressive, overhead lights it's like we we sustain ourselves on like salt, sugar, you know, noise and light and cardboard.